Continuing with what we are studying, what we pretend to explain, and now being clear about the arrival of the Messiah to the earth. As we expressed last time, is that this arrival of the very same redemption has various points of view. And one of these points that we consider more important is that we will hear and know once again the will of the Father, a will that even to the time of the Messiah many awarded like a monopoly, and what they said was unbreakable and unquestionable law. That is why we consider that it was and is fundamental to know the will of God the Father. And this is because when the Messiah appeared, what that tells us is that the will of the Father was not carried out, and that he appeared to sentence a religious structure. And the Father has decided to establish a new faith, and this establishment would have as a fundament or base nothing more and nothing less than the conscience of all those that were touched by the wonderful person of the Lord Jesus. So we have a contrast. We have a stone ministry which lasted hundreds of years, and now we have a ministry of the Spirit. In other words, the treatment of God to a part of humanity was going to change. And we say a part because we cannot deny nor obviate that the Jews will stay with their old wine, with their religion, and that the Messiah came to form a new faith, a new belief, but not a new religion, which regretfully nowadays is what survives. One more religion. But in the beginning, and according to the will of God, a new religion was not meant to be. Why? Because the treatment was about to change. It was no longer be written in stone. Now it was going a degree beyond, and was to be established in the conscience of people. And why? Because the Messiah sought to found a new structure that could be able to disengage itself from the false and degrading religions existent in the world, that back then were many. That is why Jesus, the Messiah, established principles so elemental, so basic, and without complications, so that all people who seek or were called by the new faith could be able to access it without rigorous requirements or unnecessary obstacles. This is fundamental. Why? Because the faith was meant to be totally distinct, different, so it could have an effect. It had to become detached from all religious clothing, traditionalism, and rigorosity, because Jesus, the Messiah, established elemental and basic principles without complications. We can say of free entry or free exit. Anything like that. Simple. No memberships. No complying with traditionalisms, nor observing certain ceremonies. Nothing rigorous, but something elemental and basic, so that everyone that the religion had rejected could come, because he could not fulfill nor can even comply to follow a series of requirements in which the religions of that time were founded. So this is very important. This is fundamental because it contrasts with what we have today. Today you have to fulfill with a series of requirements, certain rigorosities, certain traditions in order for being accepted in a determined religion. It is obvious that new religions continue to be born and new requirements to be fulfilled, but this is totally away of what the Messiah proposed and from what God instructed him. So we begin to see precisely that, the contrast, and we start seeing that the apparent river that follows one channel separates itself. It divides between ones and the others. So then, with these elements, was how he founded the Church of God. And we insist, not a religion or a decrepit building or a complicated labyrinth of requirements, modalities or burdens, doctrines or human protocols. All the contrary, the new faith that was being born did not demand requirements or complicated procedures to be able to achieve its purpose. And this is fundamental because the problem that we have nowadays is that there exists a great number of religious groups, until no more, of all tastes and of all criteria, with distinct names. They don't even know what new name to put to a nascent religious group. And all of them assure, all swear, all establish, all show, teach, tell, speak, and debate that they are the Church of God. But are they truly the Church of God? Can we, through a series of investigations, discover really which is the Church of God? Can we take the scriptures and, in the intricate labyrinth of the deceit of the religions, find out if we are really in the correct place or not? If we have got out of deceit, or we are very well immersed in it? We believe this is an issue that we should address, and in its proper time we will do the proper approaches to make the proper investigation and to arrive to a conclusion. or as we will say more precisely, to a revelation. Because in this issue of the Church of God, the only thing you can arrive is to a revelation. Because you can arrive to a series of conclusions, but they are not going to bring forth the fruit that you waited for. So it is fundamental to understand that the Messiah didn't create a new religion. Even though people say so, Christianity is a religion, but it was not what the Messiah created. Nor the Messiah demanded buildings, temples, religious groups, churches, between quotation marks. Why? Because the express order of God was that He did not wanted a religion. In other words, He was tired. There was the Jewish temple. There were the synagogues. That was not the idea, because you need to remember that faith was to be established in the conscience of the persons, not in the temples or buildings made by human hand, but the contrary. This matter was not purely physical, material, and fleshly anymore, but passed to be an issue of spiritual character. That is why the faith, the new faith that was in a process that should incubate and develop, it was born not demanding tough requirements, because the purpose of this faith was to reach out for the souls, not the persons, its real estate, its money, much less their possessions. But regretfully, what happened, because there was an institution that did not consolidate, was all the opposite from what the Messiah came to separate us. Today others want to keep us captive in it, that have made of the faith a religion, and of religion its modus vivendi, in disregard of the persons, and in abuse and disrespect to God. That is why we keep saying that it is fundamental that we keep approaching this first subject in a clear way. We understand that a series of concerns and doubts will be generated, that if you consider, you can send it to us. We will give you our email, the last church followed by the number 7 @gmail.com, so that you can send your concerns, your doubts, your questionings, and we will kindly deal with them if you want, because we believe it is fundamental so that we can understand one another.